Okay, we're ready. Hello, come on.
Hello.
Hi, David.
Hello.
Okay.
Would it be easier if one of you guys ran the meeting than having me trying to do it online here?
Okay. Chris, do you want me to run it or you want to?
Sure, go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. We will call the Resort Tax meeting of October 21st, 2025 to order. So approve the prior minutes. We have you, Joy, and Chris. Is that enough for a quorum to approve the last two meetings?
Should we go sit
It
over
is, yes.
Okay, I can sit over there. Yeah. I know, we don't want to turn our back to you here. Feels weird.
It's actually funny because of where the camera is. I could see your faces, but you couldn't see me, so.
I know.
It'd probably be just like angled this way.
Right, exactly. Okay. All right, so.
When we get the new conference room set up upstairs, that will be improved.
Yeah.
Oh, you decided to call in too, Dave?
Well, Jody was a little panicky, so I just thought I'd call and make sure all is good.
Cody's always panicky. It's okay. Let's go on. All right, so do we approve the minutes from August? Are you guys okay with that? And September?
I did not see them.
Okay. We can wait till November if we want and approve all three.
Yeah, can somebody send them?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, I'll send you September's, and I forwarded August from Joy to you, so.
Here we go.
Yeah.
I can quick read them. Has everybody else seen them?
Joy?
Yeah, I've
Have
seen
you
them.
seen
I'm
August?
fine with them.
Okay.
Do we know who the person was that was there?
I think we were just gonna do member of public.
Okay.
I think it was Brad Canton, wasn't it?
That was the last one.
Or was it?
This is off.
I thought I sent an
So it was-
update that had that fixed, but
Okay. Okay.
Ordinance.
Hey, that's Joy.
It is Joy, just Joy.
All right, I will approve minutes too.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Are you doing August and September or just August?
We can do both.
Okay. Move to approve August and September resort tax meeting minutes. All those in favor?
All
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Motion passes. Update resort tax expenditures and revenues.
So I have not processed any of that to update our spreadsheet. Obviously, did the email that Lonnie sent out, did everybody get that, or did she just send that to me?
She just sent it to me and you. So
Okay.
there wasn't a huge change in that report because the resort tax was just due yesterday.
That's correct, yes.
You know, where the revenues go. So we'll be able to have a better update, I think, in November. It should all be input by then.
And as far as expenses, it's kind of about the same story. There is basically the big expenses was the pool and the jetter truck was actually purchased. So that was $523,516. And we had a budget of $523,000 for it. So that was expected expense that got carried over from last year. So other than that, and then obviously the end of the pool season. So, we generally spend a little bit at more than half of our pool expenses, July and August, and then the other half at the beginning of the year. So there's no pool expenses happening now. So, but those are the major expenses in the expense report.
Okay. All right. Dave, did you want to add anything to that, or did he log off? He must have logged off. I don't see him anymore. Okay. Survey, timelines and questions. Where are we at on the survey?
The best thing I can say here is the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Because I had lots of good intentions, but no actual movement in the last month on the survey. I do have it all set up, and I was going to sign up for the thing last week, and I just got buried in some other stuff, and I couldn't. So what I need to do is pay for the survey instrument, so that then it can be shared with a couple of people, so that then we can kind of work on it collaboratively and finalize it. We got a base last time, but I just didn't get. I had intended to get to it, and I just didn't. That's the short version of the story.
Is there anything I can do to help you with that?
Yeah, so that's
just
yes,
say-
yeah, Joe. I really wanted you to help me with it, but that's why I just had to pay for the survey thing, so then I can share the draft survey with you.
Okay.
I was using the free version, which I can't share with anybody. So then I went to buy it, and I didn't have the right credit card, and so then I got behind schedule. So I will try to do that in the next few days. Is just to pay for it. It costs about $100 a month to buy it and then to be able to do the surveys, but then you can share it with 5 people. So there is a little bit of an expense there. I need to purchase it for the fire department anyway. And so I can maybe split a cost, or I can just cover that through the fire department as well.
Well, let us know once it's available so we can, then we can all review it quickly. So we're not paying it for months and months and months.
Yes. Yeah.
Tom, what platform are you using for the survey?
Typeform.
Typeform.
Yeah. I've used it before and I really like it. There's, obviously there's lots of survey companies out there, but this one works well. And I think it creates a survey that's very easy to use.
So, anything else on the survey tonight then? We'll just work on that as we are able to share it?
Yes.
Any other? Okay. All right. Update on the Montana Resort Tax Association meeting. They just had that, correct, last week? Were you able to go?
Yeah, I attended as well as Dave did. It was an hour meeting. So the main meeting, that lasts all day, will be in the spring. The main piece of it was a review of the legislative agendas, and trying to build a legislative agenda that makes sense. Brent was also hopped on for a while, and I think Chris was on it as well for a bit.
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've got any comments, Chris. The legislative agenda seemed, for the most part, good to me. The one thing that I was reluctant on and remain reluctant on, and would love the rest of the committee's kind of thought on, was the idea that the Resort Tax Association would support expanding the basically what communities would be eligible for resort tax. So either in terms of population or community size. So that was the one kind of major discussion point.
As opposed to having advocating for an all-out state sales tax.
Well,
that's kind of what it's coming down to, because a lot of cities are asking for either being able to have a resort tax or having some other income stream besides property taxes, right?
That's correct. So, as a general rule, I think folks believe that a local option sales tax, which is a sales tax that communities can choose to do themselves statewide, is pretty much a non-starter in the political world in Montana. I agree with that theory. So that would be like Billings being able to do its own sales tax. Now, the challenge is that's exactly what a resort tax is. And we obviously benefit greatly from our resort tax. And so, that becomes a little bit of the question of the resort tax piece. So it's trying to understand that difference between a local option sales tax and the resort tax.
How big of a population were they looking to go up to?
There was
Right.
no, basically there wasn't anything. There was no discussion of that.
What are your feelings on it?
I am reluctant on, I think the resort tax is very important to us, and I'm reluctant on trying to supporting in anything that advocates for something that might put it at risk. That's, I guess, the best way to say that. And that can just be a point of note for right now, and we can, talk on that
Do
later.
you think by expanding it, it might put it at risk because it then becomes more of a local option sales tax?
That's correct. Yep.
Chris, do you have any input on that?
No,
Joy, do you have any input on that?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Well, we don't really have much of an agenda, except our future other business topics of discussion. We really just need to get the survey done and completed. Future, I know we want to start looking at the budget right after the first of the year instead of waiting. Is that correct? Until June? So,
Yeah, I think we want to begin looking at items that, that might be potential resort tax items. And I think we were clear that we want to have, things that department heads are proposing, or the mayor's proposing, or the community was proposing, to have those brought in early, so we don't end up in a situation like we did last year, where we have two separate budgets, ones that we've reviewed and one that is being circulated with the council that is different from what we've even seen.
Okay. I can, I can work with, I think Dave got off, but I will, we'll just reiterate with Dave that, the mayor, that we would like, user groups, projects, big projects, whether it's, from department heads or from, Parks Board or Parks, to have those to us after the first of the year, so that we can start working on that. And we might get some more insight through the survey on how people, citizens would like to see that money spent as well. Maybe. So, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else for future meetings that really jump out at you guys besides that? Okay. We do have some people in the audience. Do you have anything to say, either of you? Okay, I don't want to. It's Barbette.
I brought you guys brochures for the tennis project,
oh, thank you.
and just like a 1-minute update. We're just about ready to submit the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant application. We visited with the city council, and there was some discussion at the table about how to move forward, and they asked for a resolution to be prepared so that they could look at that and vote on it, and that would authorize the mayor to enter into a development memorandum of understanding and also submit the grant application. So we're working with both the Land Use Committee and the Parks Board, and both of them are, and this is relevant to some other projects that could come to you guys, like the ice rink and stuff, that they want to get a process so that groups approaching the Parks Board or the Land Use Committee or the council with projects would understand what process they need to go through. How do you come in, then are you expected to enter MOUs? Do you do resolutions with the council? And who does what and what steps? And so both of those two entities, the Parks Board and the Land Use Planning Committee are working on, and it's difficult slogging.
Yeah.
To get a process to come together, and they want theirs to be similar, parallel, or maybe the same. I don't know how that's gonna all shake out. So it's an iterative thing, it seems like. Come in with the idea and then come back with more information, then come back with some plans and et cetera. So that's what they're working on, and
Barb, would it be fair to say that you are helping them with that process?
no,
No?
we're
Okay.
just trying to abide by what their expectations are.
Okay.
And, you know, like they say, they're flying the plane while they're building it.
Yeah.
Because they want to not hold up projects that are moving forward in the meantime. So
Mhm.
certainly I can give feedback, but mostly we're just trying to do what
Just
they're
abide by the
asking.
rules and do what you're told.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
How
then the
much-
last thing is, there's gonna be a meeting of the user groups at Coal Miners Park probably next week. So that would be soccer, softball, baseball, tennis courts, disc golf, and the trails group,
And
for
this is at
trails
Coal-
and the bike pump.
Coal miners, users?
Mhm.
All the users at
Okay.
Coal Miners Park, to just talk about who's planning what, and how can we work together, and how can we make sure we don't generate a bunch of conflicts that then ends up on the council table or somewhere else. So, that's it, and thank you very much, and we're still hopeful to be a part of your budget recommendation to the council
Thank you.
later on. Yep,
Hey, Barb.
thanks.
Hey, Barb.
Yeah.
We've also, this relates to, I mean, this is for everybody, but it relates to your project as well. The Pilot Tourism Community Grant is going to hold a public
Yeah.
forum on Wednesday, November
Yeah.
19th.
We'll be there.
And that has to do with use of the, for the ice rink. But it also includes, we're trying to be able to help with a Coal Miners Park master plan as well, because part of that pilot tourism grant is in Coal Miners Park too. So that group is, it's mostly Beartooth Trails, but becoming part of that as well. And so just provides an opportunity for another, a public forum there to talk about uses there as well.
Yeah, that's terrific, and I think one of the things that we want to talk about at this other meeting, or whether it's the first of a couple, is what else does Coal Miners Park need to be a really prime facility, like bathrooms, and, I mean, some of the things we might come up with could definitely feed into what you guys are working on with the pilot grant and the resort tax stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
might be a nice synergy there. Yeah, thanks, Tom.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's an invitation for the Resort Tax Committee to, as well, for that Wednesday, November 19th, for a meeting.
What time and where? Do you know?
5:30 at the Roosevelt Center.
Okay.
And
Go
what
to the
is-
back.
Can you tell me what that group is again, please?
It's the Pilot Tourism Community Grant. So this is the grant that we applied for through Department of Commerce. It's ultimately potentially $2.7 million in grant funds to help, bolster tourism activities in the community. There's a couple of main projects, making some bathroom improvements at the Roosevelt Center, the ice rink, and then trails improvements, grooming for Nordic skiing, as well as building, hopefully constructing and improving the sledding hill at Coal Miners Park. So there's a kind of a permanent sledding hill there, potentially with snowmaking. So some of this is actual construction, but also some of it is planning money as well. We've only been awarded, it's a phase grant, and the that we only have the first part of the fully awarded now. There's a second part that would have to come in 2 years to finish out the grant.
But a total of 2.7 million.
That's correct.
Cool.
All right. Dave, do you have anything?
I guess my question is more general. Is there a criteria checklist that you run projects through individually to score, based on some criteria that presumably you all would come up with when these projects are getting decided on for funding or not?
Dave, the simple answer to that question is not a clear one. The more complex answer to the question is that we generally go back to the resort tax law, and we utilize the community information we gathered in the resort tax renewal to kind of assess, what the purpose of the resort tax is, and how that moves forward. So that's the primary, so there's kind of like a screening criteria, right? So the first thing is it legal? So there's only certain things that it can be spent on. So, and then there's certain things that can't be spent on very specifically. And then the next piece that we generally apply is this, what the community told us. So that's why we're trying to do this next survey, is kind of to retruth community priorities, so we have an understanding of what is important to the community, and to see if they still match up with when we did the renewal.
So that the survey, is that mostly looking for project ideas, or is it looking for more like people's attitudes towards what's already happened on the resort tax spending?
Both of those.
Okay.
Well, and as I think you heard, we haven't actually finalized the survey, so I can't exactly promise what it's going to say. But
I mean, I think, and then I might have mentioned this at the last time when I came here. Survey aside, which I'm great. It's great to hear about. How does this get portrayed to the public before you guys decide what projects get the money or don't?
I think the answer to that question is through public meetings. So we kind of have two missions, is to go back and say, hey, where should this money be spent? And then the question is that, then the next piece is to kind of truth where it's being spent and making sure that it makes sense within the community. And the actual, I was just going to ask, ultimately the city council decides on the expenditure. So that happens at the city council's budget meeting, is the ultimate final decision. We just recommend.
Right.
We're the community forum kind of to recommend to the council, and the council makes the final decision.
Okay, that's true, yeah.
But I was just going to interject that it also helps, for example, with the pool. They had a very well-organized campaign, and did a lot of the footwork to make it easy for the city council to say yes,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
So I would just like to throw out an example. One thing that I've been thinking of, this is me dreaming, I haven't even proposed it, but I'm thinking of projects that check the boxes of, does this, tourists are spending dollars in our community, and what percentage of that fact dictates what kind of projects go forward? In other words, if tourists' money, I know we all pay for it, we all pay the tourist tax, but presumably a certain percentage of tourist money goes towards really building that up largely. But if they're seeing only projects that benefit the local people year-round and not seeing something that helps the larger tourism infrastructure, I can see people getting a little bit upset about that. That's why, for instance, I think an ideal project would be to increase our number of charging stations in this town, because it helps tourists who are coming here to find infrastructure that helps them be tourists in our community and helps launch us further into getting more money from tourism, rather than people say, well, that Red Lodge only has 2 frickin' charging stations. I'm not going back there to spend my tourist dollars.
Well, I think we just spent
So-
some money this year on that, on both,
Yep.
upgrading
We
the
did.
charging, also doing a solar, I don't know where that's at since
It ended up being way more expensive than what we had budgeted for, so it did not
it
happen.
did not happen. Okay.
But I do believe we spent the money to install new charging stations. So the charging stations were installed. And so that, Dave, that falls into the tourism infrastructure piece of the resort tax. And I think
Yeah.
you just hit the nail on the head, which is, and we try to do a little balance in this, but that, having projects that people can see, feel, and touch that benefit, and I think the pool was another example of this, right? I think the community really was pushing for a pool, and for 2 reasons. One was because it benefited the people who live here, but it also created a summertime attraction for us and gave tourists something additional to do, especially tourists with kids and families that were coming to our community, so that maybe we could get an extra stay out of them or a couple extra stays. So that there was definitely, I think you've heard us say this, there was a push away from buried water infrastructure, water and sewer infrastructure, not an elimination of it, but a push away from it and pushing towards projects that people can see realistic benefit from.
Yeah, like see more of and feel
It's
like
nice
they're
to be able to
benefiting
flush.
from.
I don't think any of us loved this project, but it was kind of necessary. And I think, we've talked about, like downtown improvements being big, but, we helped the city pay for improving the sidewalks by grinding all the heavy spots and trying to lift. And that was done through a combination of money funds, but we participated in that to help improve that experience. And another big one is, that again goes both ways, that is a big part of our push is, and there's 2 pieces to this, but snow plowing, right? Is that, having decent snow plowing in the community is, we would have to have that anyway if we didn't have tourists, but maybe it's a little higher because we do. So we provide money in to help snow plowing. So it's very visible. People can see it, and it makes a difference for our visitors as well as our residents. So that's another good example of a project that you're talking about.
And the wayfinding signs,
Point.
Yeah, those are great.
they were paid out of a combination, but resort tax helped pay for the wayfinding signs.
And the entrance
Right.
signs are really
Yeah.
nice. I don't know if
Yeah.
it helps with that, but.
Yeah, so again, when I get back to the criteria list, like having that on there, like how much does it help just the community versus how much does it help the community and the tourist community?
But in our park,
That would launch it into like, if you did it on a 1 to 5 point scale for each of these criteria, that one would be a 4-pointer or a 5-pointer, that helped you come up with a number that helped determine which projects get funded.
we have a lot of our resort tax is already spent year to year. I mean, it's just flat out already committed. So we don't have a huge amount that's left over to pick these projects from.
Right.
So it's kind of that, and that's what we always try to recommend for those, so.
And Dave, while I think sometimes those scales are helpful, they also end up being subjective inputs to try to get an objective output. You know, so when you build the scale, it's very subjective, and then you try to apply things to it to get something that's objective, but really you're just passing the subjectivity through something. And so you know, not that sometimes those things aren't bad, but that's, I think, why we're trying to say, hey, we want all these projects that people are interested to come so that we can understand where they are. And there's been some challenges with that in the past, and I think that's one of the things we want to get a better feel for is, you know, making sure we have a better understanding of what the breadth of the projects are, so that we don't miss some things that are important.
I want to just chime in because, you know, Dave, you said that you were wondering how people, you know, how this comes in front of us and those types of things. And I think one of the things this city does really well is we do have all these different committees, and like, so there's the sustainability committee. They're the ones who brought forth the charging stations. There's a parks board. There's all these different things. And so if there's a project, if these committees are behind it too, that's going to help surface it. It's going to help change council's opinion on budgets and things like that. And all of that, you know, all of these meetings are public. Those minutes are available. And so I think that's an opportunity.
It's not arbitrary.
Um,
It's not arbitrary.
Mhm.
Although,
No,
it's-
I get that, I do. I just wonder how much the public at large gets a vision that, oh, this has been through a really careful process, so that something isn't just granted by magic wand.
And that's what Barb was alluding to with those policies and procedures that land use and planning and the Parks Board are trying to come up with, is having those in place. And part of that, of those policies and procedures, will be public hearings, public input, you know, multiple times, whether it's in front of the Parks Board and then Land Use and Planning Committee, and, you know, and then council public hearings, so that things aren't just so they don't seem like they're backdoor handshake deals. You know, we want public input, especially when it's using a public space or public, you know, tax dollars for a project, so resort tax dollars for a project.
I think Joy's comment was spot on, and you know, I think the reason that we have this committee is that reason, Dave. It's kind of like a forced, you know, community input things, and we're also connected with other groups, and so we're trying to bring all this information together. And the challenge is, you know, I've obviously been involved with the city stuff for a very long time, and we always have struggled to try to figure out how to get realistic public input. And it's challenging because people don't show up for a lot of meetings, right? And so you got to try to push it, which is why, you know, why we're trying to do this public forum for the that pilot tourism grant, so that we can get more public input. But it, you know, it really takes a lot of work to get people to show and participate. But like, you know, I participate actively in the Business Alliance, which, you know, so we update on what's going on in the resort tax in that public meeting, and then bring that to this meeting. And so we try to bring in those different user groups.
Good, great.
Anything else?
One thing when I sat in on the two meetings ago, I think I sat in on your meeting, I was hoping just to get some clarification, because I don't understand how any of it works. It sort of seemed like when there was unspent money for the year, that went into I don't want to call it a slush fund, but a rainy day fund. But then also, it seems like it's part of the budget to create money for a rainy day fund, which sort of seems like double dipping. Am I off base on that?
We always, no,
It's a little tricky.
it's a little tricky. So we have to estimate what our incoming resort tax revenue will be. And we always have to budget high on that. And it's not arbitrary. We actually came up with a formula, Tom and Dave and the committee came up with a formula on determining what that will be. Because if we don't estimate high enough and we collect over that, that overage is returned to as property tax relief to the so the city has to give it back to the property tax, you know, as a
Okay.
yeah. So
And we don't want that.
when it said, yeah, it just,
I wanna use it.
when we did our last survey, it was overwhelming that people didn't want to get $30 back in property taxes.
Oh.
They wanted it to go towards something that they
Oh.
could enjoy, you
Plus
know?
it costs a lot of money to do that.
Yeah,
I know, check
exactly.
and figure it all out, yeah.
So,
As we all know
so
from our
we budget then for
governor.
that whole amount, you know, so that it equals, but we don't get to spend it until we collect it. So just because
Okay.
something is budgeted out there doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be spent.
And,
That
and then
makes
I think a good example too is this jetter truck. It was budgeted for next year and it's a very large expenditure, you know, over $500,000, but it wasn't done last year. So that money carried over, as did the expenditure. So we moved that from one budget year to the next. So it was, you know, it was just a planning piece. So sometimes, you know, these projects don't, you know, when we allocate them, they may not all get completed in a single year. And so some projects, you know, do a lump sum that maybe then has to extend over some years. And other projects, we may purposely expend a portion of it over several years, right? You know, so like, for example, we're paying off a loan on the pool, right? So that's a fixed amount going into the future that we move. So there's a few different things there. And Dave, also, if you really want to dive down into that budget, I'd be happy to sit with you at any point and just go over the details of what the budget is and where that stuff is and how all the numbers flow through into it, which is, you know, it's a lot to go over in a meeting, but I'm happy to sit down with you and do that.
And we also have a reserve in case we have a really bad year, you know, if what happened, you know, the path closes for a whole summer, we have obligations of money that's already spent every single year, like $98,000 for the pool, you know, $250,000 goes into water and sewer. So we want to we determined how much we want to keep in reserve in case we have a bad year, so we can meet those obligations. So it's not a slush fund, it's
Yeah.
the rainy day fund, it's a reserve is what we call it.
Yeah. But do you ever get uncomfortable with when it seems like we've been doing better and better and better each year? We've been getting more than expected. Is that accurate?
I don't say more than expected. That's a different statement than it has been increasing, you know. So, you know, and there's two reasons for that. I believe business is increasing in Red Lodge a bit, and that's helped. You know, a big increase in the resort tax has been the added of the stormwater system, which added another %, right? Which is a 33% increase. And then the last piece is that just inflation, right? You know, so as things get more expensive, we collect 3% of the more expensive, but you know, which is good when you've got a loan payment to make, right? Because that loan payment's fixed amount. But when you have to buy a jetter truck, that jetter truck gets more expensive every year as well. So then it costs more to get it the next year. So some of those increases get eaten up in the things that we purchase are getting more expensive as well.
Okay.
You know, snow plowing costs more this winter than it did 5 winters ago.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Hey, everyone, I've got to run.
Can I ask you a quick question, Tom?
Yeah, of course.
Is there, when you get those budgets from Lonnie, can you copy the whole committee? Just forward those to the whole committee? Because I haven't seen anything. I would like to see where we're at.
Absolutely. And maybe Jody, if you could just pass on, if you wouldn't mind, just to Lonnie, that when she just sends them, just to send them to everybody, that would save me a step.
Yeah, well, that would be even better, yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
I can do that, yeah, definitely.
All right, great, thanks. I hope everything works out, whatever your emergency is.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thanks, Tom.
Bye.
Angela, did you have any comments? I see you patiently online there, just your
No, I'm just listening and just, wanting to know what's going on. Thank you, though.
All right,
Thanks for being here.
Okay.
Thanks.
So anybody else have public comments? Anyone? Done. Okay.
wasn't-
Ghost in the corner. Okay.
It wasn't the shortest meeting on
No,
record, but it was pretty
No,
short.
but it was good. It was
Oh,
good.
that's
No, it was
cool.
good.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll go ahead and adjourn. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next month.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Joy.
Bye.
All right.
And your committee too?
No,
No.
no, she's just always in the public.
She's very involved.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.